Last video, I set the treehouse challenge, a challenge with Lego and other craft materials to get you to build a treehouse using your imagination. And in this video, I just wanted to give you some tips on how to get inspiration and the creative process that you might go through to help you come up with something really special. So, first of all, I wanted to share a few things that might help you, give you some inspiration and ideas. So I've taken this from a website and just pulled off a whole bunch of photos, that give you ideas of the sorts of tree houses people build in real life, either for kids or even you can have tree houses as hotels and all sorts of things. And some of these, as you can see, have rope bridges. They have like playground things like climbing walls and rope ladders and tyre swings and slippery slides and fireman's poles and all sorts of things on the outside. They can be kind of connected together, swings, all sorts of things. Some of them have special designs on the outside. And then also think about the inside. I've got one example there of a kind of teepee inside the building, but there are loads of things you could put inside. You could turn it into all sorts of things. You can add a swimming pool, you can add whatever you like. It doesn't have to be real. This can be let your imagination run completely wild. And obviously you've got the tree as the kind of backdrop, however you want to incorporate that. And I mentioned before that sometimes when you're trying to think of an idea for something you're going to create, you can get great inspiration from looking at all sorts of sources. And books are one example of that. And a lot of people know The Magic Faraway Tree as a possible book. And maybe some of the lands at the top of the faraway tree, or the tree itself, if you've read the book and know about the slippery slip and climbing up a rope and rooms inside the tree, like moon faces, might be interesting. Or maybe some of the lands at the top of the tree. You might want to create your tree house with the land of birthdays, or a room of Lego, or whatever you like, really, anything at all. A series of books that have really, and one of the reasons that I thought of this challenge were the 13-story treehouse books. There's a whole series of them, and if you haven't come across them, each book there's a treehouse that has 13 different levels or rooms or stories, and they're all completely crazy. So they have like a marshmallow room, and they have a shark-infested swimming pool, and like anything you can think of. And that's just to give you some, again, if you've read those books or have access to them, then they might give you some great ideas of some completely crazy and wild things you can include in your treehouse. Other examples are things like The Magic Treehouse, books by Mary Pope Osborne, or even there are some kind of build your own treehouse books that you can buy for building a treehouse in your own real treehouse if you have a garden. But it might give you ideas of things to include, like zip wire, or what they call a crow's nest, where you can sort of look out from, an escape hatch. Maybe you want to put a lockbox in there, or you want a pulley to lift things up to your treehouse, or you want to have a skylight or a ladder or a bridge or a swing, all sorts of things. Hopefully that helps you start to think that I'm not just thinking about just one little room in a tree, which is fine if that's what you want to do, but if you want to go crazy and do something more exciting, then you're really welcome to. You might also want to look at Lego, or not just Lego, anything that you might have seen, and just look online, maybe browse around. If you've got a parent, please make sure that you do not go online and start researching without speaking to your parents first. Online safety is really, really important. But maybe sitting with your parent, you might be able to have a look through various images online, Google Treehouse, see what comes up. And get lots of ideas, both for the inside and the outside of your treehouse. Maybe your treehouse is a fun fair, maybe your treehouse is a circus, maybe your treehouse is a zoo. Whatever you want to do, I'm just trying to inspire your ideas here. And if you want to stand out from the crowd, if you want to do something really special, then the sorts of things that I think are really exciting within tree houses are, I'd love to see kids showing what they know about moving parts and having a play around with things like putting in pulleys, levers, gears, bridges, making strong buildings through what I call brick build, which is not trying to make a tower where all the gaps between the bricks line up if you put them up on top of each other, but where you put them 2 bricks next to each other and then the one above joins those two together, so sits in between, like the bricks in a house if you look at how a house is built, and that makes them much stronger. So those are the kinds of things that I think add to a build. Also, if you happen to own a We Do kit, and I created this challenge for my school group that I work with and they have access to WeDo kits, then you can add movement with the motors from the kit. You can add sound, sensors, light. But equally, if you don't have a WeDo kit and you've been doing some Scratch programming, maybe you could add some sound effects for Scratch that you could put into the video at the end, or maybe you could add any kind of thing that if you've got something programmed, have a think about what it does if you own something like that, or you can just use Scratch with a laptop or a tablet nearby, and see what extra special stuff you can add by using that. Maybe you might want to think about trying to make your design stand out by demonstrating your knowledge about other things in the world that are important to you. So making it maybe really environmentally friendly, maybe thinking about using reusable materials, or putting a solar panel on, or a wind turbine as part of your treehouse. Maybe you want to make it accessible, and being accessible is about making sure that something can be used by everybody and not just by one particular type of person. So it might be trying to enable it, for example, to let people with wheelchairs get up into the tree. And durable is trying to make something strong, something that is not likely to fall over. And that's really important. If you're up in a tree, you wouldn't want it to fall down. So that's really important too. Those were the 3 principles this year that were focused on in the first LEGO League Junior Challenge, which I happened to run, and those are why I suggested those 3. But there are lots of other things you can think of to add in features. And please, if you're doing that, do, whoever you're sharing this with, or if you're sharing it on social media with your parents' permission in the end, then you know, those are the kind of things to point out. You want to think about the interior design. Maybe you can really make furniture that looks really great, or really great beds or sofas. Maybe you want to add a TV, anything you like inside the building of the treehouse would be really cool. And for younger children, if all they want to do is just make the inside of the treehouse and work on that with Duplo or with anything they like, and even construct one out of any other play sets they've got, that's absolutely fine too. The important thing with this challenge is to be creative. And then once you've got that kind of design and you've built it all up, and I'll add videos over the next few weeks, to give you tips on things like building swings and zip wires, pulleys, but also in making furniture. Once you've got your actual design finished, think about maybe a storyline that goes with that. Maybe add in some Lego characters if you've got them, or other little minifigures you've got from other sets, whatever play sets you might be into, and think about the storyline of the people using that. Maybe add a story, maybe you could write it down, maybe you could video record it and share it with your family. Maybe you just explain it to them one evening. Maybe you could look into stop motion. Stop motion is something that I've taught at the club I run, and video stop motion recording can be a really exciting way to add movement to something where you don't have that movement already, perhaps. So you could create a stop motion video to create a bit of story around your design, and perhaps you might want to think about how you present and share what you've built, and to explain to everybody why you've done it, what the features are, so you can really make sure everyone understands why your design is so super special. And that might be something you just present to your family, or maybe your grandparents, if you can do that over Skype and you're in lockdown, or in person after the COVID crisis. Or perhaps you want to record that as a video, and that might be something that you want to share in some other way. But think about making sure you explain the different features, you maybe show the designs on paper that you've done to start with, explain why you've gone this way. Learning how to communicate and share what you've done is such an important skill, and this is a really great way to practice it. So, to get started, one of the things I would really recommend people do is to start sketching out their designs and ideas. And you don't have to be great at drawing. You'll see in some of my future videos, drawing is not something I'm amazing at all, but just sketching anything on paper can just help you remember what your ideas were. When your ideas are bubbling around in your head, just being able to put those down on paper can be really useful. So I would try that. Try just sketching some stuff down. You can create a kind of ideas board, so you can put little boxes and almost like a storyboard, or divide your piece of paper up into different boxes and go, oh, I'm going to put a swing in, and I'm going to put a zip wire in, or I'm going to put a playroom in, or a games room, or a room full of powder or whatever you fancy, anything you like, whatever. Maybe you want a room of feathers or pillows, a pillow fighting room, anything. Just put those all ideas down, either just a list of words or little sketches of things, or start to design the whole thing and put labels on. So long as you understand it, it doesn't really matter what that looks like. You may even have magazines or things you've printed out that you're able to cut up, and you might be able to take bits of ideas from those and stick them together or put them down as a kind of memory board of ideas of things you like. Or if there's something and you want to do the drawing really well, you might be able to use some tracing paper, or even like greaseproof paper if your parents have some for cooking. You might be able to use that as tracing paper to help you go over the top and transfer that so that you can copy another design. Now, you should never copy things and show them off and say they're your own. But when you're being creative, being inspired by somebody else's design and starting with that as a base, particularly if you credit it. So if, for example, you decide to use a Lego model that's out there in the real world, or maybe one you have as part of your design, that's completely fine, so long as when you share that with other people, you say, this idea came from this set, and I've actually used these bits, I built these from Lego instructions, and then I added to it in these different ways. So there's lots of ways that you can make it, you can make use of other people's ideas, and then build on them, as long as you add a little bit of your own inspiration and your own ideas as well, and so long as you credit people where it's other people's work, that's absolutely fine, and that's how a lot of creative people work. So try and get those ideas down on paper first. Another little tip, when you're doing this kind of work, I guess a lot of people spend time when they're working with things like Lego, they often spend time mostly with their Lego being built from kits. And when it all gets taken apart, it generally goes into a big box if you're anything like our family. And then you've got this huge heap of Lego. Now, sometimes when you're starting to work on a project, you need to know what bits you've got, and it can be worth trying to sort of look at what you've got in your box, maybe even organise it into some little boxes or little plastic pots or something, by group or cardboard boxes or whatever you like. So maybe you group by colour, maybe you put pieces that might be a bit different, like from a Technics kit or something like that, in one particular place. But however you do it, that might again give you some inspiration by helping you see what pieces you've got. Which bits you might copy or reuse. So if you've got kits on the shelf in your bedroom or wherever, you might be able to think about incorporating those. As I said, as long as you credit those, you can totally do that. Reuse them, or use those as an idea and then build something slightly different, but with that as an inspiration. That's fine too. So decide which bits you're going to build from scratch, which bits you're going to copy, and then if you've got anything that you really want to build but you don't have the pieces for, and I'm not saying you have to build any of this in Lego, by the way, whatever you find, if there's anything you find that you want and you don't think you've got the right sort of materials, then maybe have a look around and make yourself something out of cardboard. Find a cardboard box, make a tree out of card, make a rope bridge out of some string. Maybe you've got furniture from a doll's house you played with when you were younger, or some kind of other play set, or maybe you can add just some artistic decorations and things. Yeah, hopefully that gives you some inspiration and helps you recognise how important it is to start with a little bit of planning. So have fun, and please check out the other videos on building swings, zip wires and furniture for your treehouse, and have fun with it. If you end up sharing online, then use #TreeHouseChallenge and I will take a look. Thanks very much. Bye.